Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it, Hail Varsity Radio. It's a road show Friday. Back at the patio, getting ready for the NFL Draft. Round 2 gets going. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, and we have the Pride of Fairbury, a special guest all the way from Denver. Bill Doleman is with us. Now, it's going to be a bit of a play-it-by-ear show. We have Gertie the German Shepherd out here and Shaggy Doleman from Denver, who's in jail right now, and I pray that Carson's not throwing his Michael Vick jersey on out here to be creepy here. Bill, good to see you. Elijah, what's up? How are you?
Wait, you talking to Bill or me with that one?
I'm saying what's up to both of you here as we get ready for the spring game. It's Elijah, this could get messy here, my friend.
With the dogs over there?
Yes.
Yeah, the Michael Vick joke was pretty messy, too. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay, well, we have – I know, it's not a nice thing, but the hair on the back of their necks was standing up.
Yeah, I for a little bit was a little bit jealous that you were out in the patio out in the warm weather, but I'm actually doing just fine now. Back at the studio, it's nice, peaceful, relaxing over here.
You're safe. Bill, good to see you. Thanks for rolling in.
Great to see you. I really appreciate it. I didn't realize that you had purchased Danny Nee's old house, but it's great to be in Lincoln and hanging out with you on one of the 6 nice days a year in Nebraska, which, by the way, look, I'm a proud Nebraskan. There are no finer people anywhere in the world, but let's face it, there's really only 1 or 2 nice days per month, if that, in Nebraska. This happens to be one of them. So I appreciate being outside with you here.
I got to go to Danny Nee's house a couple of times
with
Patrick.
Okay.
No, I'm not a recruit. Not a recruit. I got to go to. I had some friends I worked with when I worked at Hinky Dinky that were pious kids, and they knew Patrick Nee.
Yeah.
So when the Nees were out of town, we would go to Patrick's house.
Because Patrick was trying to get into Princeton, and Bill came over, and you had a little Joel Goodson party.
A little bit.
Right.
It was a good time. I love Pius, man. It was a good time, and I didn't even have to go. So we're off and running here as we welcome you into Hail Varsity Radio. Numbers to dial up, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbal, and can email Chris at HailVarsity.com. NFL Draft set to get going here day 2. Pretty entertaining and interesting day 1. Round 1 with the NFL Draft is it was all about Aaron Rodgers, and then what would San Francisco do? With their third pick, they went with Trey Lance, stud quarterback out of North Dakota State. Denver, Elijah and Bill went with Surtain Jr. at the corner. I wasn't sure if Fields might find his way to Donkey Land, but Chicago Bears fans are raising a bud heavy as we speak still, cheering, joyous. They were able to switch on with the Giants and move up. We'll talk to a resident Bears fan. 1011 Sports Director Kevin Sjuts will be with us, get his take on some spring football as well. Bill Doleman, of course, in person. He cannot go anywhere for the rest of the show. He is tied to the chair, quite frankly. And then you have Parker Gabriel from the Lincoln Journal-Star. He'll be with us at 5:25. So we can go draft. We can get into Lance Leipold going down to Kansas. Will Bolden Husker baseball get rocking again, trying to win an 8th consecutive series? That happens at 6:30 at Haymarket Park. But I want to start with the groundbreaking as Nebraska is expanding their football machine and athletic facilities here. That ceremony's still ongoing, northwest corner of Memorial Stadium where the Ed Weir track is at. And I thought this was incredible. that Nebraska was able to raise $80 million and move forward even at the tail end of a pandemic. And it is remarkable when we think about just where the world's at, what's happening when it comes to financing and funding, and Nebraska's donors stepping up majorly. And you had Ronnie Green mentioned kind of the trifecta here of folks that helped put this together. Matt Davison, Garrett Glassy, and Hank Bounds going to work. Bill Moose, vision for what he wanted to do and listen to what football needed, as well as the rest of the student athletes. And Bill, your time at Nebraska, man, you did a lot of leadership work. You did a lot of administrative work. You also hosted the Tom Osborne Show and were the voice and face of Husker Vision. And you know how important facilities are, but you also work and have worked with so many great folks that are part of the life skills element of Nebraska football that separates it. This new facility is going to house life skills. It's going to be there from an all-encompassing training table for all the student athletes. And when it comes to the players and coaches and meeting rooms and weight room and all of that, I mean, it's going to be a bigger region compared to what Nebraska has now. The weight room's sweet now, but you have so many guys roster size-wise that you're going in different shifts. So you can touch on just, you know, what Bill Moose has done in the past, be it at Oregon or Washington State with the football building. And now Nebraska is going to move forward. I think 2023 is where they're at. They're a bit delayed, but the renderings look just phenomenal. And this will be really cool.
I think it's great. Obviously, it's there's a certain sense of sadness just for the culture of collegiate athletics that you have to do it, but Nebraska is in the game. And by doing something like this shows that Nebraska wants to be at the forefront of the game, just as Nebraska was in the early 1990s when Bill Byrne had the vision for, Husker Vision, and putting the right people in place to execute that with Jeff Schmall. And, in the 80s and the 90s with the life skills with Dennis LeBlanc and Keith Zimmer and Kim Shellpepper and all that Nebraska did to put the life skills unit together and become the model for all the other schools around the country that, also wanted to commit to that. Boyd Epley certainly in the early 70s through the 70s, and with his staff and Mike Arthur and the Brian Baileys and the John Jost and the Paul Kochs and all of those guys who helped put together the strength and conditioning. Nebraska has always been at the forefront of what it needed to do to be competitive in the arms race of collegiate athletics. This is maybe a step behind in regards to getting it done, because so many other places have gotten it done already, but Nebraska has invested. It does speak to the leadership. It does speak to Bounds and Green and all of those people, but it also speaks to the importance of Nebraska athletics, not just Nebraska football, Nebraska athletics, to the culture of the entire state of Nebraska, and that the people who invested aren't just major corporations in Omaha. They're not just Berkshire babies who live in Dundee and have had the money for the last 50 years. It speaks to the people in Shickley, in Fairbury, in Burwell, in Ogallala, in Ainsworth, all around the state, big donors and small donors. Everybody in Nebraska is a donor of substance. That was one of the most infamous lines of Bill Byrne, unfortunately, who I think was one of the great athletic directors, perhaps of all time. But it speaks to the teamwork, the importance of athletics to the culture of Nebraska, that the people respond no matter what the dollar amount is. So congratulations to the corporations who have stepped up, the incredibly wealthy individuals who have stepped up, but also the people around the state who feel a tie and are felt that's extended to them from the university, that they still feel a part of it. And I think that's what's important, that this is a collaborative team effort from everybody.
It screams power, and that's the word that comes to mind with power and passion. With the fan base in Nebraska, you'll feel it and hear it if you're a recruit that's coming up on your own dime tomorrow to watch the spring game, and we'll get to that list in a little bit. But from a putting your money where your mouth is and your support is, it's not just you're dropping, and we'll get to some draft stuff in a minute. It's not that you're just dropping and able to accumulate $80 million and build that war chest up during a pandemic. You still got to get to 155, and that can happen, obviously. But you get $80 million during a pandemic. And, oh, by the way, you get $80 million during a 12-20 start with a new coach. Now, it's a native son that folks want to see thrive and do well, and it's going to be a fun year 4. It could be a fun year 4 with Nebraska, as difficult as the schedule is. There's excitement that'll kind of be realized tomorrow with some of the young pups as you get to see them do some work, some of the underclassmen. But this math usually it wouldn't add up anywhere else, and that's to be commended for all the Nebraska fans out there that have chipped in. And if you can't chip in, but you're still there with your voice, and you're going to be 40,000 of you tomorrow at Memorial Stadium, that's also pretty incredible. It just reiterates the special place we've both had, all three of us have had a chance to grow up in.
But don't you feel, a little sadness that this is where we are in this arms race when you look around the culture of collegiate athletics and everybody is trying to keep up with somebody? And for the longest time, people were trying to do what Nebraska did. 30 I know,
years.
And it just continues to get worse, right? But that's just the way it is. And if you want to compete at the high level, you're going to compete at the high level. We talk about the Group of 5 and the Power 5. I really have a hard time believing that there's going to be anybody that's going to make that move from a Group of 5 to a Power 5 at some point. I think the line is probably drawn, and for you to go from here to there, and you're talking about Nebraska trying to raise the amount of money just to get to $150 million. I mean, you're talking about some programs that don't have budgets that are above $30 million, right. $20 million, and then think you're going to compete. That's what makes Nebraska so unique. Is geographically located, the population size has been said about Nebraska for 50 years.
It's growing.
Here they are, and it's great. Nebraska's great. There's no question. Lincoln and Omaha are two of the most, I think, fantastic cities in the country right now, and the way they've grown. But it just to see the bells and whistles that are being given and having to be given, it just is a different culture from when I grew up.
Our dear friend, the average Joe fisherman, Aaron Lee Jacob, tweets in, "Are we going to talk any bass fishing today?" That's a reference from about 17 years ago, and I love it. We will talk a little NFL draft and spring football. Bill, we'll get a little further in depth with Nebraska in the spring game here tomorrow, next hour. But with the NFL draft, Elijah, I want to go to you. As a Denver fan, as a guy who wears the AFC championship sweatshirt from time to time,
from 96.
Are you okay with where Denver went draft pick wise? And Bill, as soon as Elijah's done, I want you're plugged into Denver, and how do you think what was the reaction in Denver last night with going cornerback? Elijah, are you ticked they didn't go get Fields? We were wondering if Denver, and I know they just got Teddy Bridgewater, and I know they got locked there, but you could have had either Mack or Fields with that pick. Instead, they went corner, and I know Denver is always kind of defensive-minded first, and the defense has carried them a lot of years.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was mad that they went cornerback. I was a little bit confused. I was actually out umpiring last night when I checked my phone after the game. We were on pick like 11 or 12 at that point, so Fields had just gone to the Bears at 11, and I went, he didn't go to the Broncos at 9. That's who I thought, like, as far as I thought Fields could go was to the Broncos at 9, because I thought if he's available, they're going to take him. They've liked him the whole draft process. But Patrick Surtain's a very, very, very good cornerback, got a very high ceiling. I think it adds to the Denver defense, which has been good since the Super Bowl. It's been the only reason the Broncos haven't been going like 2-14 is because they've had a decent defense built around Von Miller. So I'm happy with it. I'll take it. I think he's a cornerback for the future for the Broncos, but it seems like a luxury pick that you make whenever you already have like a solid team everywhere else. And to me,
when you're going to the playoffs,
yeah, I see the weak link of that Broncos team as the quarterback position. It's a little strange they didn't go shore it up, but maybe they are confident they can go get Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's just it. I mean, KOA, the voice of the Broncos, Dave Logan, was on Twitter last night saying the deal is not dead. We'll hear some commentary from Green Bay's GM on his communication with Aaron Rodgers here this hour. So things sound like, at least the way the GM's painting it, that everything's okay, all is well. But if you're...
They are, Kevin Bacon.
Right, Animal House, right, as he gets trampled. Maybe if you're Denver, you're going to package Surtain and Von Miller to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers. Bill, do you think that could happen?
The Von Miller thing, I think, is the most intriguing thing about it. And I really think, now, I've been out of Denver now for about 48 hours, so things have really changed.
You're breathing easier.
Since the time I was, dry. Yeah, I'm a little clear-headed out here.
No Cheetos fingers.
So the drive out here, and I find out this whole Aaron Rodgers thing is you and I were talking yesterday. I was like, well, wait a minute here. And then instantly you go to Denver. And this is just after the Bridgewater thing, which kind of came out of nowhere. I shouldn't say nowhere. I think it reemerged out of nowhere because there was talk about that a couple of months ago with Bridgewater that he was going to be getting out of Carolina, and thought, okay, well maybe that would be the guy that would come into Denver and be good insurance for Locke. And then that kind of died down for a long time because the Watson stuff started to percolate. Well, now the Watson stuff is, who knows what's case of suspended animation that is.
Yeah,
let's face it, the folks in Houston are a lot happier with what's going on in Green Bay right now because that's taken them out of the headlines with their quarterback headache. But with this whole Aaron Rodgers thing and the Von Miller stuff, I could definitely see where they would say, you know what, Vaughn, we didn't have you last year. We had some issues. We got a contract done. Well, let's package you. I think they keep Surtain, though. Okay. But I could see them making that move if Rodgers is willing to come.
Well, more to come on the spring game. We'll check in with 10-11's Kevin Sjuts. Bill Doleman is here. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. Road Show. Friday, Casa de Schmidt, Hail Varsity continues, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back here at Hail Varsity Radio Road Show. As we're on the Casa de Schmidt patio, we're going to get the grill fired up in a little bit. We're going to watch some NFL draft, get ready for the spring game road show tomorrow for the weekend edition of Hail Varsity Radio. As myself, Mark Cranack, we will be down in the rail yard wanting to see you 10 to noon. We already got an RSVP from Vic from Denver. He is on I-80 making his way east, and he's ready to watch Nebraska. And we welcome in sports director with 10-11, and you watch his coverage every night with 10-11 Sports. Kevin Sjuts with us. Sjutsy, do we have you connected, bud?
We're here. How are you doing, Schmitty?
We're good. Bill Doleman's made the trip from Denver. He wants to see Nebraska up close and personal. How's softball going, man?
Well, I'm out of Bowling Stadium right now. I mean, that's a pretty tough assignment on a gorgeous Friday, right? They're cruising along. They got a one-run lead here in the fifth inning.
That is good. Now, I wanted to check in with you on some football, but specifically, I know a lot of Bears fans, and I know how big a Bears fan you are. How did Kevin Sjuts react last evening when you maybe got your quarterback, hopefully got your quarterback of the future?
How did I react is the question. I reacted loudly, happily, and that was like a lifetime's worth of failed drafts of emotion coming out at one time. And Schmidt, I got to tell you, when they traded up, they went up 9 spots to get Justin Fields. I had just bad flashbacks to Trubisky because, they traded up to get Mitch, however many years ago that was. I blocked it from my brain, but I still remember, and my coworkers will share the story of the words that can't be said on this program that came out of my mouth when that happened. And I remember when the Bears drafted Trubisky, not only did I lose my lid, I marched around the workplace for like 5 minutes, just seething. I got in my car and I drove just because I didn't know what to do. And I remember walking through the aisles of Hy-Vee, just with smoke blowing from my ears. I was so angry. That is one side of the spectrum. Last night was the opposite. Whether Justin Fields works out or not, and I think he will, the fact that the Bears front office finally did something that was unanimously supported by the fan base blows my mind. It's amazing.
You went to the alcohol aisle a few years ago after that draft pick, and then you went to the ice cream aisle last night.
Now, I didn't say specifically
I'm insinuating.
That's a fair assumption.
You needed the drink. Kevin Sjuts is with us, 1011 Sports. His thoughts on a longtime Bears fan, and my boy Handley's a Bears fan. Greg Smith's a Bears guy. You're a Bears fan. Kenny Hamilton's a huge Bears. So there's a lot of you around. And I'm happy for you. Bill, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, Kevin, this is Bill Doleman. I'm a little disappointed in you Bears fans, though. I was down in Houston when they drafted a kid out of Wisconsin, a defensive lineman named J.J. Watt, and the town went apoplectic. How dare they draft this waste of a lineman from Wisconsin? This guy's not going to be any good. So I don't think you guys are being fair to the development of Mitch Trubisky as the future of the Chicago Bears at quarterback.
You stop that right now, Bill. If I can reach through the phone and slap you, I would.
I'll give you the address.
I mean, I get that the guy went to Arizona, but I mean, for a while he was pretty good with Houston.
Yeah, he did all right.
It's pretty good. Sutsy, what are you looking at tomorrow? You'll be covering the spring game. It's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be phenomenal with fans, obviously, there, but also just seeing some hitting in the second half. Who are you focusing on?
I've got a boring answer for you, Schmidt. I'm going to say Adrian Martinez. Okay. I know that everybody's seen him. Everybody wants to see the running back situation. People want to see Omar Manning. You want to see Heinrich Harburg. I get it. They're the fancy new toy. But can Adrian be in the freshman form of Adrian? What's his speed look like? What's his body look like? What's his decision-making look like? I still believe that Adrian is the key to Nebraska's 2021 season. And, if you see him have a quick clock in his head to get rid of the football, because remember, in the scrimmage, it's not tackle. He's wearing the green no-contact jersey, so that expedites his decision-making process. Can he read his keys, make a fast decision, and how accurate are his passes? And, if he can hit the downfield throw, because it sounds like he's got some receivers that can stretch the field and stretch it effectively. Can we go 40, 45 yards downfield and hit on target? If Adrian's doing that, I think it's going to paint a different picture in my brain about what this offense could look like heading in through the summer and into the fall. But if we're still missing on some of those big-time throws and maybe even missing the read to allow you to go downfield, then you might start to think that the offense might be in the form of 2020 again.
Anyone hits him tomorrow, they're going to be running stairs through the stands is kind of my take. But, yeah, if you get freshman form, and I remember that Colorado game where he was dropping in dimes to Spielman downfield. He's got it in him. He's just got to be able to have the time. I'm anxious to see kind of the walking wounded group, and that's been the running backs. I think that takes a lot of pressure off Adrian. Anxious to see some of the younger offensive linemen grind away at the defensive line in that second half. Kevin's with us. He's taking a minute out of covering Husker softball to jump on with us. Real quick, I'm going to let you get out. A thought here on what Nebraska baseball's got in front of them this weekend with Rutgers as Michigan looms.
Well, that's the trick. You can't look at Michigan, and you can't get too caught up in winning the Big Ten Conference. They're in a great spot right now. Rutgers is a team that actually just took 2 of 3 from Michigan last week. This is a pretty salty team that's in Lincoln. The weather's going to be fantastic. Come check them out. Schmitty, this is my thought on Nebraska baseball real quick. Of course, they can hit the ball. They're great fielding the ball, and they're pitching it really well. But the DNA of this team is what I love the most. They take the extra base when they can. They don't beat themselves. And they're just such a gritty team. It's a Will Bolt team. We shouldn't be surprised at it, but just their style of play and the guys they have to play that style, it all perfectly aligns. They're a fun group, 20 wins, and that number could keep on growing if they keep rolling.
Well, they keep doing their thing. It's going to be a fun regional in Lincoln here to welcome back more Nebraska baseball fans. They love that feeling. It's been since 2008. Kevin Sjuts, 1011 Sports, sports director. Sjuts, we'll let you get out. Thanks for jumping in with us.
Enjoy the steaks and beers tonight, Schmitty.
We will, buddy. Take care. There he is, Kevin Sjuts with us, 1011 Sports. Love to catch up with him from time to time. So I have pork chops in a little bit. Do I need to go get a steak?
You can go get whatever you need, but you got to have a Guinness with it.
Okay, so I need to get Guinness. Elijah, are you umping later?
I am not. No plans actually.
So you need to pick up a 6-pack of Guinness. I'm kidding.
I was going to say, are you requesting that the pay up on the steak and a beer bet finally?
We do a steak and a beer bet every Friday at 5:50-ish. And I have one more times than not, but we just kind of carry it over. And Elijah's been chasing it a while.
Yeah, I think I owe you.
Collected.
I think I owe you 20 steaks now, something like that.
Inside of a beer, inside of a cow or something.
Well, just get them like a brontosaurus burger, like the end of the Flintstones, and they put it on the side of the car and it just tips it over. Just get a side of beef.
Tomahawks.
Yeah.
That'd be good. We are going to give you a chance to qualify in a bit, twice each show with Hail Varsity Radio. To remind you what's going on, the ESPN Memorial Day kickoff. You've got the Weber Spirit E210 gas grill from Capitol Patio and the Flame Shop. You have a $100 gift card to Campbell's Nursery and Garden Center. And then the $100 gift card to Leon's Gourmet Grocer. That cue to call coming up before 5 o'clock, also coming up before 6 o'clock. Let's put a bow here on a little bit of spring game thoughts. Sjuts watching for Adrian. I am going to be looking for sure at Omar Manning, me and the rest of the state, but I want to see him do it on Saturday. He's a guy who I think will feed off the energy of the fan base, and he'll continue to get confident in the offense. He is a monster difference maker in the form of a Nunwa or Mo Purify. He's that good a wideout. So my answer's trendy, not boring, and that's who I'm circled in on. Elijah, who are you kind of geeked up to see tomorrow?
Well, you got to start out with the quarterback position, Adrian Martinez. I want to see if he can carry over that efficiency from last season. But then I also want to see the defensive side of the ball. We kind of know all these big names that are returning, that played big snaps last year. But I want to see who are the guys behind him that are going to be pushing him to stay great. I'm looking for guys like Isaac Gifford. I'm looking for guys like Ateva Mauga Clements, who didn't really get as much playtime last year as some Husker fans were expecting. Nabab Joseph's another one in the secondary. Going to see how his progression was. And the last one I'll name off on that defensive side is Miles Farmer. Excited to see what he can do coming back from injury.
Farmer's fantastic. He's looked pretty good as he's trekking back. And, Bill, I know you pay attention to Nebraska ball, and Gabe Irvin's a young back. That running back situation's still a bit of a question mark with Stepp's injury. We'll see, what Ramir Johnson's future looks like. You wish and want him to be in that room because he has the most experience, but he isn't going tomorrow. A player or position group you like?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be watching for Christian Peter.
Okay.
I had lunch downtown today, and
is he back?
And I'm pretty sure now. I could have been mistaken because it's been a while since I've seen Christian, but a behemoth of a man came out of the Cornhusker Hotel and looked a lot like Christian. The only thing I can think of is that he's been brought back, because I believe he's still in New Jersey, probably running some restaurant Empire.
I think he's doing insurance.
Okay, whatever. But I think they brought him back to run bodyguard interference for Adrian Martinez. So my guess is that he will be actually out on the field, making sure that not only is there no tackling in the first half, perhaps no touching at all in the first half. So that's why I think somebody like Christian might be in town. They might bring just all of them back, Tomich and Christian and all of those guys, Broderick, whoever.
Well, Neil Smith, Broderick Thomas. That'd be all right.
But let's put a hedge of protection, like the Bible says, around Adrian Martinez tomorrow.
Is Christian bringing the Christmas ornaments with him?
Well, I do remember that a couple times when I was much younger, Christian Peter and Kent Wells, for some reason, thought that my head was a Christmas ornament or a aluminum can of Ham's beer or something. Yeah, it made me feel like one of the boys, But Kent Wells one time at the rail. Oh my gosh, I'm still seeing lights.
Wow.
Yeah. Good guy.
No,
the headbutt. Like they say in Paul Blart, nobody wins with a headbutt.
You fared better than the cigarette machine at the Chesterfield.
Which is where we're heading after the show.
Yeah, because we got to find it. Absolutely. Kansas has a new man with Husker ties. Lance Leipold is going rock chalk. Thoughts on that hire on the way?
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back here, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery Roadshow Friday. We are on the patio at Casa de Schmidt. Bill Doleman is in from the Denver region. Elijah Herbal back at our studios. We're going to fire the grill up. We're going to pour a Corona and get rolling here. And then Roadshow tomorrow morning. Mark Cranack will be on site. Myself, as it's the weekend edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Special time, 10 to noon. Ahead of kickoff down in the rail yard, sunshine and lots of taps to pull. So come on and see us and get geared up for the spring game. And excited to be there with you. Your chance also to get qualified for that grill, that Campbell's gift card, and that gift card to Leon's here before 5 o'clock and also into the 5 o'clock hour. We'll hear from Parker Gabriel coming up at 5:25. Thoughts on the spring game and visitors this weekend. Big recruiting weekend, even though it's unofficial for Nebraska. So, Bill, a guy you know and have crossed paths with, not only from his time at Doane, but his offensive coordinator stint with UNO, his time with Coach Solich, and then also in the recruiting office with Nebraska, Lance Leipold. Incredible work at Buffalo. A 37-33 career record, but a 24-10 mark. The last 3 years, they've been great in the MAC. They've gone to 3 straight bowl games. Late, but better late than never. If you're Kansas, who's gone through 5 coaches since 2009. And I know Mangino liked frozen Snickers and hated treadmills, but he was phenomenal down there.
Both of which were in his office.
Yes, they were. And there was a little fishing pole that had a frozen Snicker on the end that was, he was chasing the Snickers bar when he got on the treadmill. True story on that. But he wore his welcome out, and they went through a lot of coaches, and I think one of which was Charlie Weiss, where they hired Fat Charlie over Gary Barnett. They could have had Barnett down there. Didn't do that. That's a mistake. Well, maybe they got it right with Lance Leipold because he's a phenomenal coach, and I hope it works out for him because based on the people you know and knowing him, he's been grinding a long time in his mid-50s, but hey, he could do well down in Lawrence. Do you believe that? Not a knock on him, but more so the Kansas situation.
I think it's a great hire for Kansas. I don't know if it's a great job for Lance Leipold. I would think that there would be a bigger and better opportunity for him elsewhere. I know there were thoughts that perhaps, it had P.J. Fleck left Minnesota after last year and gone someplace, that maybe Lance would have been the guy for that job. Lance would have been the guy for the Illinois job. I think both of those would have been, very good for him.
He finished second to Bielema.
Right.
So he was right there for the Illinois gig.
So this is going to come down to what kind of support is he going to get? Is it going to be like it always has been, and like I believe it was for Turner Gill? That it's still a football or a basketball program, and by the way, do the best you can with this, but we're not going to really pay much attention to you once the calendar hits September, because basketball starts in a month and a half. That's the whole thing, is what kind of support is he going to get? Now he's going to get a new athletic director who is making the hire. So there's got to be some trust and some chemistry between the two of them. For Kansas, I think it's great. For Lance Leipold, I hope it's not a career mistake where, he's got incredible numbers at Wisconsin Whitewater, like 10 losses in 6 years or something. And then what he did at Buffalo and, with those resources, if he can go 500 at Kansas, it's a great deal. I think he's got the potential to have Mangino-like numbers where you're winning 8, 9, 10 games a year at Kansas. But he has to have that support, and it can't be all basketball, because at some point, the NCAA, who, by the way, for some reason extended Mark Emmert, is going to have to make some type of announcement as to what's going to happen with some of these basketball programs. It can't just be Sean Miller getting fired at Arizona. And this has been going on for way, way, way too long. And so I think for Lance, it's a great opportunity. I just hope that it's not, a career
killer.
Yeah, I'm not going to say killer because he's got enough reputation. But, it may not be the lofty numbers that he's come to know.
109-6 at Wisconsin Whitewater in multiple national championships. He released a statement today, development, discipline, determination, the 3 Ds for Lance Leipold. And, I look at part of me's like, man, do you stick at Buffalo and be patient for another year? Because I know he'd been there, how many years at Buffalo?
Six, I think.
6 years at Buffalo.
I can't believe he's 56 years old.
No, I know.
That surprised me more than anything.
Kansas has lost 115 of their last 136 games. I mean, think of that. I'll say this, though. You've got the Jayhawk League and the JUCOs down there. That's where K-State mined and did well under Bill Snyder. That's where Mangino went when I think of Reesing and a couple of the wideouts that were there. Sharp, the I-back, and Talib, obviously. And that's interesting. Little niece Evie has come by to say hi. Shaggy, it's all right. So that's good. So you have the ability to recruit the JUCOs. That's key. But I think Les Miles probably left him a lot of young talent. I mean, I think Les can still recruit if he was at least halfway interested, or at least people on his staff.
Yeah, I think Lance Leipold has got enough credibility with coaches all around the country, high school, junior college. I think he's a great football coach. There's no question about it. He just hadn't gotten the right opportunity. And again, I go back to Turner. Turner then was at Buffalo and was at Liberty. All of those things that he's able to do and do well, you just hope that you have the support from the administration to allow you to succeed, because Kansas is never going to allow anything to surpass what it's done in basketball, no matter what's going to come down the pike in that regard. But, I think anybody at Nebraska who knows Lance would think Lance would be a wonderful coach wherever he is, and would be a great fit at a place like Nebraska. Nebraska just has the right guy at the right time with Scott Frost to build a program where it needs to go. But that's the kind of guy Lance Leipold is, that if you are a Nebraska fan, you can really associate with a guy like Lance Leipold.
True or false, do you now suddenly feel better about the Buffalo game with Lance moving to Lawrence? I'm a true. I think that Nebraska, that game could have been dicey. It's right before the Oklahoma game. It's not that Nebraska can just roll the helmet out and go win. But without him in the headset in Buffalo, that's a more winnable game for Nebraska.
Well, it's late in the season, too. I mean, you're talking about spring ball. I'm talking about it right now.
Yes.
This is a late coaching change.
It is.
Very much. And I don't know where Buffalo is or was with their spring practices. Could be done. Could be getting started. Could still be 12 feet of snow on the ground up there. I really don't know. But for them to have to go through this coaching change at this point, I think it is really going to sidetrack any preparation that they have for the upcoming season. I didn't feel, wasn't nervous about it anyway. But I think for them this is going to be a tough year.
We'll wind down hour one. Bill Doleman is in the capital city. Chris Schmidt. It's a patio show with Hail Varsity Radio. Elijah Herbal back at our ESPN studios. We'll give you a chance to qualify here for the ESPN Memorial Day kickoff shortly. More thoughts here on the spring game. NFL Draft. Hail Varsity continues, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery Roadshow Friday on the back patio. Chris Schmidt, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbal, Billy D in town. Spring game tomorrow in the rail yard tomorrow for the weekend edition from 10 to noon. Going to get the grill fired up here and watch a little NFL draft. You can catch round 2 on ESPN Radio following us. And 70% of people in fatal crashes in Nebraska not wearing a seatbelt. Get buckled up. If used properly, a seatbelt can reduce the risk of fatal injury up to 60%. Your best defense in any crash, buckling up. Brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. And can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Some time there on Lance Leipold as he is headed off to Kansas. Elijah, let's spend a minute here on Green Bay. Things seem to be okay and a little bit better for the Packers. At least that's what Green Bay's brass is saying. You have Gutekunst is the general manager. Yes, I had to write that phonetically, but at least they've talked. Here's a little bit from the Green Bay GM, and he has had communication here, cut to, with Aaron Rodgers. At least, there's no for sale sign yet in Green Bay.
I won't go into specifics, but there was communication with Aaron today. There's been communication with Aaron, a lot over the past, 6-8 weeks. So, but there was communication today. We're not going to trade Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's from the brass. More here when it comes to specifics here on that communication. Give us a little dirt here, GM.
I'm not going to get into a ton of specifics, but I think, obviously, he's our quarterback. He's our leader. We've been working through this for, a little while now. And, I just think it may take some time, but, he's the guy that kind of makes this thing go. So he gives us the best chance to win, and we're going to work towards that end.
So there was enough public butt kissing there. Hey, we need you. We love you. We got to have you. We can't do this thing without you. I get it. But, man, it's tough to undo between losing to Tampa like you did and now Rodgers saying, you know what, Jeopardy's a pretty good idea. Let me go elsewhere. I hope they can hang on to him because Green Bay, it just feels right with him there. And although Elijah Denver'd be phenomenal, that's still maybe a beacon of hope.
Yeah, I'll pray for it. But when you look at what when you look at the Broncos roster, adding Aaron Rodgers and boom, that's a pretty good contender against Kansas City, at least in my opinion. But when you go look at the Packers draft last night, they had a chance to take Elijah Moore, one of the better wide receivers in the draft at Ole Miss, go help out their quarterback. And what do? They go take a speedster cornerback, another defensive player in the first round. And this guy, Stokes, he's pretty raw from what I've been reading about him and listening to the draft experts. Pretty raw, but with just super good top-end speed, which always projects well to the NFL. Just ask Al Davis, excuse me.
Well, let's get you qualified here. Caller 9 as we get into hour 2. Caller 9 for the ESPN Memorial Day kickoff. That is not my wife throwing a toaster into the bathtub that's plugged in. That's supposed to be meat on a grill. Caller 9 qualifies for the Weber Spirit E210 gas grill from Capitol Patio and the Flame Shop, a $100 gift card to Campbell's Nursery and Garden Centers, and a $100 gift card to Leon's Gourmet Grocer. Caller 9 right now, 466-3776. 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Caller 9 right now qualifies with the ESPN Memorial Day kickoff. Hour 2 coming up with Hail Varsity.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Hour 2, Chris Schmidt, Bill Doleman, the pride of Fairbury. NBC Sports is on the patio with his buddy Shaggy. What kind of dog is Shaggy?
30 pounds of savage beast. Viciousness and fury.
A savage beast, and Shaggy's a good dude. He's hanging out underneath the picnic table here.
We go with Border Terrier, but because New Mexico gas station dog is not an official breed, which is where he was found. He is an adopted rescue dog. Adopt, don't shop. And he's a good beast.
He's good. Gertie, the German Shepherd, who he met earlier before hour 1. They did not ask each other out on a date, thankfully. Gertie's also adopted.
Very good. Good for you.
The German. Roz, the Labradoodle, had to go to the vet today, so she is
not happy.
She's downstairs in her kennel. Elijah Herbel's back at our ESPN studios. Parker
Chris,
Gabriel.
Can I just ask you, what's the alternative to your dog being adopted? Like, aren't all dogs adopted in some sense?
Some are purchased and some are adopted.
Yeah, but even a purchase is technically an adoption when you really look at things. Am I getting? Am I just analyzing this too much here?
Well, yeah. I mean, these dogs are wandering the streets, or in my case, a wandering New Mexico gas station. So hopefully, he's got a little bit better life with me than he did down there.
Yeah, he was hanging out with Jesse and Walt down in New Mexico.
Yeah, he was trending toward Breaking Bad, but we got him on the straight and narrow.
Now he's waiting on those pork chops.
No country for old dogs.
Yeah, staring at me. We'll get into some Husker baseball here and some spring football. And Elijah, you and I spent some time talking about Bill Moose's comments this week, and I love the fact that there's confidence, and Bill knows football. So he was talking about 8 or 9 wins. He can see 8 or 9 wins on the schedule, but he knows it isn't easy. He knows it's not a pushover. He knows it's not a guarantee. And then you kind of couple that with the strength of schedule here. Bill wanted to get your take on the Moose's comments, and him and Frost are on the same page. So Frost had said something earlier this year about it's time for Nebraska to start kind of doing their thing again. And I think Coach Frost and Nebraska, honestly, the staff, they've been humbled, and they now going into year 4. It's been rough terrain in the Big Ten, and it's like that for about every and any coach not named Urban in the Big Ten. I mean, there are games that come up and just bite you, and it's not necessarily a 9-win Wisconsin or Iowa you lose to if you're from the East. Look at Northwestern, case in point, a year ago. They were phenomenal. They've had 2 guys go in the first round forever, for the first time in forever or ever, and they're, again, 2 out of the last 3 years, your West Division champ. Who was their lone loss to this year, pre-Big Ten title game? They got bit by kind of an up and down, a yo-yoing Michigan State team. We're not far away from Rondale Moore is going to be drafted tonight. He might be the steal of the draft offensively. He had an amazing night in West Lafayette where you had Purdue put up 100 on Urban Meyer and Ohio State. So you can go get punched in the face and black out any weekend, any Saturday in the Big Ten. So that's completely understood. Back to Moose and 8 or 9 wins. I can find 6. I can talk myself into 7. And if they are much better coached and much better disciplined, I can even go 8. And incredible coaching job, coach of the year type talk, I can go 9. I'm right around 6 or 7 if they get their bleep together when it comes to Saturday game day performance. I'm not talking the players. I'm talking the coaching staffs. I'm talking a steady rotation at running back where you get a guy lathered up and you stick with a back, or you run the football, you make the point to be physical, get downhill, and you get some separation with your wideouts, and you get a healthy Adrian Martinez. I think you can do some nice things this year. But your takeaway with this, it wasn't a mandate, it wasn't an edict, but still a number was talked about, a number was hit on, and that's 8 or 9 wins with this schedule.
Yeah, I go back a couple of years ago when what did he say? I'd be happy with 6, or I can't remember the first time that he,
6, Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah, he drops that number. People are like, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And he's pretty prescient, and the he's a football guy, and he was pretty dead on in his preseason assessment, his postseason assessment. He understands the culture and what it takes to build a football program. So I think you go back to what he said a couple of years ago and think, well, maybe he knows what he's talking about. And as somebody who has kind of put his trust into really anybody named Bill, but you put your trust in what he has said and the reputation that I had heard about Bill Moose even before he took the Nebraska job. You kind of think, well, maybe he knows kind of what he's talking about, and he's assessed it. I'm sure that with all of the myriad of things that he's got going on as Nebraska's athletic director, with trying to raise money, build facilities, and manage all of the other programs, I'm sure he's probably taken out a few, stat books and looked at the personnel and the numbers and said, this is a team that can win 8 or 9 games. I'm going to go back to what I said, was it 2 weeks ago or last week? This is a team that when you do look at the roster, it has talent. But there are those intangibles. Injuries, obviously are a big deal. Adrian Martinez has to be healthy, and he's got to make better decisions. But it has to be a more disciplined football team. And if it is, eliminating stupid penalties, holding on to the football, and not putting it on the carpet all the time, if you can do that, if you can stay injury-free, which is sometimes, just by the grace of God, but holding on to the football and not turning it over, not throwing it away in bad, throwing it away and having it picked off, those kinds of things. And I go back to the Colorado game a couple of years ago in Boulder, and it was early on in that game. Nebraska was just jack sky high.
And they were up 20-0, man.
Right, but even early on in that game, there was a personal foul penalty on a 3rd down and long.
Extended a drive.
And extended a drive, and you just those are those singular moments when you look at it. And I can remember watching that game at that time, going, God, you cannot have that kind of penalty. I know you're jacked. I know you're emotional. And we're going back 2, 3, 4 years now, right? Mm-hmm. But still that stands out in my mind. You got to be emotional, but you also got to be smart, and you got to be disciplined in those situations. And it kind of goes back to mention Christian Peter earlier. Remember the Orange Bowl win over Miami, and Tom said in the locker room at halftime, they're going to come out and they're going to do something, and they're going to try to bait you into a penalty. And what happened? Sure enough, Christian Peter pissed somebody off, and the guy gets a personal foul penalty, and Christian's just laying there on the ground like, I didn't do anything.
That wasn't me.
Right, exactly.
Wasn't me.
But it's those kind of moments that have an impact on a game. And Nebraska cannot be emotionally stupid. They've got to be emotionally smart, emotionally disciplined, and hold on to the football. And then I think that there are 1 or 2 games that maybe you shouldn't win that you do. And once you get those, then you start to steamroll a little bit. Mm-hmm. And maybe that happens early. Maybe it happens in the middle of the season. But all of a sudden you're looking and you go from 6 to 8 wins just because you are a smarter, more disciplined football team.
Elijah, they have been on the cusp of getting to the postseason for sure, but they have kind of underdelivered with their win total and in a lot of close ball games. I mean, I think Bill's right on it. How do you feel? Do you think they can kind of tighten up and win some of those close games?
Well, I think Bill not only has a good read on the Husker football team and what small changes can be made to improve the performance on the field and how close this team could actually be. I think he's got a really good pulse of how Husker Nation feels. And I think the mood among Husker Nation is it's put up or shut up time. We're into year 4, and you still haven't had a 500-plus record in your time here, Scott Frost. Like, not only are the expectations based on this team to get 8 wins, it's also just an expectation of this program as a whole, is that by year 4, Scott, you should be into bowl eligible 500-plus range. And if it's not this year, it's going to be a severe disappointment. Whereas in years past, you were hoping for, the 8 to 9 win mark. But if you got to 5 or 6, you'd be, okay, we're still in the development phase. But at this point now, it's, okay, we need to win. Because if you're not winning by year 4, is it time to go find a new head coach?
That's and that's kind of been Nebraska's curse. They have hit reset and eject on a lot of coaches in a short amount of time, and now you have one of your own back here to lead it, and you were expecting a quick turnaround. Some understood that you judge Frost after year 5, not year 3. So there's a little gray area there. What do you do before you get to year 5, and what do you do to follow up a really weird, crazy year 3 with COVID? To me, year 4 will be telling. From the discipline standpoint, you talk about being emotional and physical, and I think Nebraska is going to be one of the more physical teams in the Big Ten. That's incredible. Frost and Duval promised to do that. They've delivered on that. But I look at a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, who's one of my favorite interviews and one of my favorite people, an incredible ball player. He'll be hearing his name called a year from now on day 2, maybe day 1. He's that talented. But I look at Cam Taylor-Britt and Nebraska's secondary, arguably Nebraska's best and most seasoned position group. They're going to be your leaders on defense, right? Well, there's been a lot of targeting. You can call BS on the targeting or not. The point is they've had a lot of guys in COVID-shortened 2020 miss time. And I go back to a game. You go to the Boulder game. I go back to last year. You beat Minnesota, who was 33 men down. You may flip things around and you're at 500. Maybe you're a game over 500. Maybe it's not do we want to go to the bowl game or not? It's not a discussion. What happened as that game's tied late in the third quarter? You got a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt who gets nailed for a personal foul call that extends a drive. And I'm not piling on Cam or blaming him. I'm saying that's one moment in one game where you really felt deflated not being able to beat an undermanned Minnesota team.
They got to get rid of this ejection on the
sucks,
target.
I know.
And how long has that rule been in college football
They're going to
now?
get rid of tackling here pretty soon, which will make it really nice on
I'm so
Saturdays.
tired of people like me, okay, on the air, and you hear them say over and over again, well, they're trying to take that out of the game. They're trying to take that out of the game. They've been trying to take that out of the game since Red Grange wore a leather helmet, okay? It's just the way it is. And if you're going to be able to look at it on replay and say, look, there is incidental contact when it comes to the helmet. And I said this 20 years ago. I remember John Madden said it after, around the same time. If you want to make the game safer, get rid of the helmet. All right? Get rid of the helmet. Because if you don't want people tackling with their helmet, guess what?
Take the
helmet out, and they're not going to tackle that way. I've called a lot of rugby in my time, and there is not a tougher sport in the world with harder hitting. And you hear bones crushing when they tackle in rugby. But they've learned how to do it. But this whole thing, well, they're trying to get out of the game. Well, they're trying to get out of the game. You know what? Why are you taking guys out of games? So, take them out. You got to sit them for a quarter or a series or something.
Yeah.
But to say, okay, well, you're completely ejected because, if somebody goes in there, helmet first with their arms at their side, launching themselves like Fred Flintstone out of a cannon, then, okay, maybe you don't belong on the field. But when somebody lowers their head because they're trying to go in and make a play and they happen to lower the head at the same time, I just am tired of they're trying to get it. You're not going to get it out of the game. But if you're going to take a look at it, you certainly have to have an understanding of the rules of football.
Yeah, people using their
anyway. The Nebraska has to be a much more disciplined team when it comes to tackling, when it comes to holding on, and I mentioned injuries, and that's just by sometimes the luck of the situation. Look at Fedoni. All of a sudden you've got a freshman who looks like he's going to be a contributor this coming season, and in the middle of spring, in a non-contact drill, there it happens. And you cannot control something like that.
Elijah, Nebraska football needs a live chicken and Jobu's rum. Something like that to alleviate the curse, the dark cloud.
I mean, are you suggesting some sort of exorcism here? Some sort of...
Possibly.
Have we reached that point yet? I mean, it's been 20 years, but again, you can look and it's not like we're cursed at this point. It's just you've made a series of bad hires in the athletic director and head coach role. It's not irrecoverable.
How many games have they had canceled?
Oh, well,
you had 2 games you've lost. You lost the Wisconsin game. You lost the let's treat Terry Bowden like a piñata game.
And I still say if Nebraska plays that game against Akron and they win, all that feel-good stuff, I'm thinking the whole season's different. But that game, I mean, that's just the bad luck of the draw.
You've lost on a Hail Mary to BYU and Taysom Hill. But
look at this. The injury to Fedoni. Nebraska's going to go tomorrow with no contact or no tackling in the first half. Who's to say somebody doesn't, and God, please don't let this happen, who's to say somebody doesn't get hurt in a non-contact spring scrimmage? It could happen. It happened in before the Purdue game.
Yeah, Miles Farmer. Just completely freak accidents happen. Injuries happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. And unfortunately, Nebraska's had it to happen, to some guys that you really, hope that it doesn't happen to. Bill Doleman, Elijah Hurrdat, Chris Schmidt, Hail Varsity Friday. We are here at Casa de Schmidt. We are going to fire the grill up. We're going to pour a cold one, watch the NFL Draft. You can hear the NFL Draft on ESPN Radio. You're also going to hear the cue to call before 6, and you'll get qualified for that Memorial Weekend kickoff with ESPN. That's a grill. That's a gift card to Campbell's Nursery and Garden Center. That's a gift card to Leon's Gourmet Grocer. Listen for that sounder. We'll tell you when to call. We'll talk about some of the visitors recruiting on our mind. Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal Star. His thoughts next on the visitors on the spring game. Hail Varsity back at you after this.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery Patio Show Edition. Hot and warm and great weekend for football. We say hi to Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal star at Husker Extra. PG, Parker, as a Packer guy, how were you doing yesterday?
It's funny. I was working, and I was like, just kind of I was just, looking at Twitter like normal, and I saw, I think maybe it was like Mina Kimes or someone was like, yeah, Adam Schefter's got a big bombshell on NFL Live coming out of this commercial break, so flip over to it. And I was like, oh, well, it's probably interesting. It's probably about quarterbacks at the top of the draft or someone who's trying to trade way up or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay, turned it on, and he starts talking about Aaron Rodgers not being happy and not wanting to go back to the Packers, and I was like, okay.
Was there a loud scream from your office?
Yeah. This is a family. The Patio Radio Show is a family program, so I probably can't say what actually escaped my mouth. But yeah, it turned into sort of an interesting day for the Packers too.
So, if Parker Gabriel got phoned after the spring game, and it was the Green Bay Brass, and they said, "Dude, he isn't coming back." Him and his gorgeous mustache and his MVP trophy. Where should we trade him? If he had to go, where would you send him?
Funny enough, a lot of my friends, this was a topic of conversation. You might not be surprised to know. I don't know. I think it would be, given the conference alignment, San Francisco would be a tough pill to swallow for Green Bay. Denver would be great. That'd be fine. Pretty much anywhere in the AFC, honestly. That doesn't leave a whole lot of West Coast options. I guess the Raiders, the Chargers aren't in the market for a quarterback. They got a pretty good one. Although, I mean, like if they want to part with Justin Herbert, that would be fine. But other than that, there's not a lot of. I mean, someone said to me yesterday, like, the quarterback up in Seattle's disgruntled. Maybe they
flip him.
And John Schneider, the GM in Seattle, he was with the Packers. He's a Ron Wolf / Holmgren guy, and so that'd be sort of NBA-ish, but that would be interesting if you just said, yeah, sure, Aaron Rodgers straight up for Russell Wilson. That would be, you could draw my intrigue on that.
Well, and Russ knows Wisconsin's uber well, obviously, with what he did in college. Parker Gabriel's with us. Well, Parker, I was thinking about you. I'm like, man, I hope things work out. It sounds like there's been some communication, and there's no eject yet, but he's special to watch in Green Bay. I hope things get smoothed over. Big weekend. I know you had the groundbreaking, and what's this mean to you, a guy who covers Nebraska football day in and day out? Just with Nebraska's ability to move forward with this facility?
Yeah, well, it's impressive. Obviously, it got delayed by a year because of the pandemic, and so it's a long time coming. I mean, they announced the thing right over in the same spot as the groundbreaking on site in September of 2019, before that Ohio State game. Feels like forever ago at this point. So now the shovels finally go in the dirt and they start building it. It's going to be a long time before, they do the sneak peek tour or whatever. The football program is planning to move in there before the 2023 season. But it's a massive project. I mean, I think it's because it wasn't actually a reality in terms of like the construction until today. It's hard to wrap your mind around. I mean, I was standing there where we've done post-practice interviews this spring, and you're looking right out at the track, and just the distance from that northeast corner of Memorial Stadium over to the Coliseum and then out to the practice fields. I mean, it's a massive area. And then it's going to go all the way up to the East Stadium plaza there and sort of encroach on it a little bit by the way the renderings look. It's just a huge project. And so it's going to dominate the area over there for the next couple of years. It's going to be a big old hole in the ground before too long, I would imagine. But it's going to be interesting to watch it. And then obviously it speaks, well to the fundraising efforts at Nebraska, which has always been a strong suit. And it continues to be that they were able to, raise and maintain $80 million plus in commitments for that project. And they're hoping to get the full $100 million, sort of over the lifespan of the construction of this part of it.
Parker Gabriel's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Parker, this morning we saw some new renderings for this facility that are different than the ones that came out whenever this project was first announced. Is that a result of changing fundraising efforts during the pandemic, or is that just, as they're getting further along in the project, they're kind of updating how the look of the building is going to be?
Yeah, I think it's mostly just an updated design. When they've gone to this sort of phased approach to the project, and that really means is that they're going to start by building the new building, and then the phase two, as far as I understand it, this was proposed in November and then approved by the Board of Regents in December. It's mostly just the redoing of the existing structures, so like what they were going to change in the Hawks and then in North Stadium. All of that is sort of now not going to be done simultaneously, but if they can raise the rest of the money, it will be done, sort of right in line with this part of the project. So for the most part, I think it's just, the price tag didn't change and the overall square footage didn't change. But over the course of the last year, I mean, the price of building materials has changed a lot. The pandemic's had a big impact on building costs and all of that. And so I think it's probably partially updated design. It might be, I don't know if it's detailed enough to be, hey, maybe it's a little bit more of these materials rather than these materials because of, keeping the target cost of the project in mind. But certainly it looked a little bit different in the renderings this morning.
Parker, some thoughts on the spring game. You look at Nebraska's roster and breakdown and some guys to watch. What should your takeaways be, I guess, after Saturday kicks off and you see the second half where there is live tackling? What position group or even player are you going to be most focused on? We'll get to recruiting in a minute, but first things first, some guys on the field you're interested in seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people will probably start with the running backs on Saturday just because it's been a little bit scattershot, through the spring in terms of availability. Obviously, Marquise Stepp, is out until the summer, and Ramir Johnson is not going to play on Saturday, according to Ryan Held, but the rest of the guys will be. So, I mean, if you're a Nebraska fan, I think you would feel first of all, I don't think you should draw any sweeping conclusions from just the spring game itself, but I think you'd feel a little heartened if you were a Nebraska fan and you walked out after the scrimmage or flipped off of BTN after the scrimmage or whatever on Saturday and thought, man, Gabe Ervin looked really good, or man, Savion Morrison looked really good. Same thing for Marvin Scott or Jaquez Yant or whoever it is, but they're looking for a guy to become the lead dog in that room, and right now there's not one. And not only that, but all the guys that are healthy are pretty darn inexperienced or entirely inexperienced at the college level. And so that's definitely one to watch. I think it'll be interesting to watch the linebacking group just from a depth perspective there, and the secondary as well. They've got a lot of starting firepower back in the secondary, but you've got, a young wave behind it that they really need to be game ready this fall. And then that's to say nothing of the young quarterbacks, which are going to be obviously heavily watched and heavily scrutinized. So there's a lot to pay attention to.
When it comes to visitors, and Parker Gabriel's with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star, does an amazing job covering Nebraska at Husker Extra PG. You've got some quarterbacks that are on their way in, Parker, and you look at MJ Morris, arguably one of the top guys on Nebraska's board, and talk to me a little bit about how you think things are moving forward here for 2022 prospects and just the impact you can have on Saturday. Also, kind of your feel with the Louisiana product, Reese Mooney, and I know he's got a teammate that's a high-level wide receiver in Shelton Sampson as well. Are those kind of the three big names you're zeroed in on, or is there some other guys that you're looking at here that are coming up on their own dime?
Yeah, I think naturally the conversation starts with the quarterbacks that are going to be here. MJ Morris from the 22 class, and like you say, Reese Mooney from the 23 class. the thing that's interesting with Morris, and we'll see about, is he told me a month or so ago that he'd like to make his decision in May. One of the schools that was thought to be, right in the mix for him was Florida State, but they just took a second quarterback earlier this week. And so, you're sort of, as far as I know, you're sort of in the Nebraska, Louisville, Georgia Tech, or excuse me, not Louisville, NC State, Nebraska, NC State, Georgia Tech, realm for MJ Morris at this point. And, the options they're not dry for him, obviously, but more and more schools are landing their quarterbacks for the current class. And so I don't think, regardless of whether he picks Nebraska or somewhere else, I would think that would happen, relatively soon. And then with Reese Mooney for the 23 class, he doesn't need to be in any rush. He told me last week that he's hoping to see Florida State, Miami, Georgia, and maybe USC this spring. But he also said, hey, if I fall in love with the place, you never know what could happen. So definitely quarterbacks are on the radar screen. There's a bunch of guys from the 22 class that are going to be on campus that I think are interesting. A guy like the Hayes, Kansas boys, Gavin Myers and Jaron Kanik. There's their teammates, their best friends. Jaron Kanik is a guy who, he's 6'2" and 210, and he's run 10.6 in the 100 this spring in track down there. And so he's not only being recruited by Nebraska and Iowa and Kansas State anymore. There's some big boys that are starting to realize the sort of, height, weight, speed, athleticism package that he's got. And then another guy that's an interesting one is Chris McClellan. They got a bunch of defensive linemen that are going to be on campus, and Chris McClellan's a guy from the Kansas City area that's really blown up. You're talking about offers from Oklahoma, Ohio State, a bunch of big-name schools. And so he's a guy who I think Nebraska is doing well to get guys like Kanik and McClellan and a bunch of those other guys in that class on campus now. And some of them are going to turn around and come right back to campus in June when official visits open. So you get a little bit of that sort of quasi-game day environment for the guys who are going to be on campus on Saturday. And that way it's sort of a best of both worlds. You get to see that and then also take your official visit and maybe make a decision in the summer rather than having to wait it out all the way to fall if you wanted to see, people in the stands at Memorial Stadium this fall.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Parker Gabriel's with us, Lincoln Journal-Star at Husker Extra PG. Parker, we'll end it on this, and thanks for making time. I know it's a busy Friday for you. With Bill Moose's comments on the Bill Moose Show earlier this week, the 8-9 win total has raised some eyebrows. Some have probably quietly nodded their head. Well, why not? And then you look at the strength of schedule and, just where Nebraska's been at in some of those one-score games on top of the strength of schedule with Nebraska's home and road gauntlet for 2021. What was your reaction to Moose's thoughts about 8-9 wins? I can find 8 or 9 wins. I'm sure you can find 8 or 9 wins. I can also find 6 losses. Right. It's interesting, and then there's a stretch of games in October that are going to be those coin flip pick-em ball games, and Nebraska's been okay in some instances. I think back to Michigan State in the snow, and then I think to the 0-3 mark against Iowa, where it's come down to one possession. What was your takeaway with what Moose was saying?
Yeah, it definitely. It definitely caught your attention whenever an athletic director puts a number on it, and it didn't come off as a mandate. Hey, we've got to win 8 or 9 games. But obviously, when you put a number on it, it's gonna gain attention and generate headlines and all that. To me, both he and Scott Frost have said in the past 3 or 4 months that it's time for Nebraska to start competing for the West, and you're not going to compete for the West if you don't win 8 or 9 games. So, I think it's pretty consistent with what you've heard from the athletic director and the football coach essentially this entire offseason. But, yeah, that's certainly not – you can ask any Big Ten coach. It's never easy to win 9 games. Nobody nobody waltzes to 9 wins. And so, yeah, I mean, you're talking about handling your business in the non-conference play. Obviously, it's asking a lot to go down to Norman and win a game against a team that could be a title contender. But beyond that, I mean, it obviously means getting off to a good start with Illinois and Buffalo, and then depending on if they, if they find a game for September 4th or not. But then, yeah, to do that, you've got to if you're going to win 9 games or 8 games, that means you've got to beat, like teams. You've got to be able to find a way to handle Michigan State and Purdue and pick off Iowa or Wisconsin or Northwestern or 2 of 3. And so, yeah, it's not easy. But, it's never going to be easy in the Big Ten. So that's sort of where it's at, though. I mean, you're in year 4. You've got some depth built and all of that. And I didn't think it was out of line, and I also thought it was along the same lines as what they said before about competing for the division. But like I said, you slap a number on it, and it gets people's attention.
Last thought here, Parker. We'll get you out on this. Who do you got tomorrow, red team or white team?
See, this is a tough one because the red team's going to roll the starters out there in the first half, but the white team's got more sort of like the 2s and 3s that'll be going against essentially a scout team on the red side in the second half. So it's a tight one. I lean toward the red. And I guess unless there's some sort of wonky scoring system, I think I'll take the red in a nail-biter at Memorial Stadium.
Parker, you have the honor right now of setting the line.
Red minus 2.5.
Wow. He's going 2.5. It's not only a brutal number, it's also got the hook. There we go. Parker, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for the time.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Good to get caught up with Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star at Husker Extra PG on Twitter. Bill Doleman is here. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. 6:30 tonight, Husker baseball gets rolling. Rutgers comes into town, and they just took 2 of 3 against Michigan. So Nebraska still in the driver's seat. Nebraska this week popping up on Kendall Rogers' national seedings. Nebraska right into the tail end as a 16 seed, which would mean a regional host. Let's hear from Will Bolt as he's excited about where the fans are going to be. They're going to be at Memorial Stadium. Then they're going to be at Haymarket Park. And with restrictions being lifted, that means more butts in seats at Haymarket. Here's Coach Bolt.
I've said it before. I mean, the reason a lot of us are here is just because of how special the fan base is and just how behind all of the sports that they get. And so it's exciting. I mean, it's something that, we have this beautiful ballpark. We have, the great fan base to back it up. And so they fill the berms, they fill the stands. It sounds like this weekend that we're going to have, we could have 6,000 people here. So I know it's just the last year and what it's brought us. It's been such a strange year for all athletics. I mean, playing in empty stadiums and having to really create your own energy and enthusiasm. I mean, having the fans behind you, it adds a lot. And our guys are really thankful. We're really thankful for our administration for being supportive of having people in the stands, the city of Lincoln, that we can get this safely done and have the support that these guys deserve, honestly. So we're excited about it. And as far as a home field advantage, I mean, I think the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I think we feed off of it. We feed off the crowd. I know the opposing team, because it's something maybe they haven't been used to, when they've got the adrenaline going at times and our fans are clapping with 2 strikes on a hitter, maybe they get a little more sped up, those type of things.
So, Elijah, would you run a parent for going a batter, batter, swing, batter, Ferris Bueller style, or do you let the crowd do their thing?
Oh, I mean, the crowd can heckle me all they want. As long as it's not interfering with the game, please heckle me. Like, it makes me better.
Okay.
I thrive on that adversity. You doubt me? Okay. Watch me ring your son up.
We're going to get Elijah umping his Sunday. I know it. You're going to have to be a bigger envelope. Let's dive into pressure and expectations. More from Will Bolt. Nebraska fans jacked about where the baseball team's at. And you look at year 2 for Will Bolt. After an abbreviated last season, this team is the same team that shows up Monday for practice as they do Friday for game time. They are even keel, and you want to see that more out of your football program. You want to see that more out of your basketball program. But Will Bolt has got massive amounts of buy-in and maturity with this team, and they will go about their business not looking ahead to Michigan. At least you hope not if you're a Nebraska fan. They found a way to get out of East Lansing last week. Do we have time, Elijah, to hear about pressure and expectations?
Yeah, we do.
All right, let's hear from Will Bolt.
I don't think there's really any way to pretend it doesn't exist. I think it's very tangible at this point where you're getting, we're getting more people that are allowed to come to the stadium. So there's talk of, getting 6,000 people at the games. You start getting in the home stretch where the weather's good, and we have more home games, that we're going to be playing here down the stretch as well. And there's things that are goals that we've had, since the day these guys stepped foot on campus, as far as hosting regionals and winning the league and those type of things. So those are all things that. We don't necessarily harp on every day, but you also, you're not going to act like it doesn't exist either. So I think the message it's just consistent as it's been all year long. It's like we just got to show up each day, and as boring as it may sound, just be good that day. Just have a good practice. Just have just show up and play our style of baseball every given day, so you don't just make too much of what's the noise that's going on outside of the program.
We'll wind down a Friday next on Hail Varsity.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, NFL Draft is coming up shortly, as they were just kind of showing a graphic here of notable second and third round quarterbacks taken. Yes, the Snake Stabler was drafted in the second round. They also showed Joe Montana, a third round draft pick, who Montana right now is still pimping Guinness on a TV near you. Reminder about your friends at West Blue Realty in town for the spring game, or you're thinking about selling that home because of real estate prices. Your friends at West Blue Realty can make it happen. They specialize in residential home sales in Lincoln and surrounding communities. And you mentioned Hail Varsity. They can provide up to $1,000 on the closing of your next home purchase. Give Tom Luby a shout, 402-540-3768. Kelly Hofschneider's fantastic as well. Give Kelly a call, 402-202-2312, westbluerealty.com. And go visit Kelly and Tom today, 1120 K Street, Suite 200. We will have the sounder here very shortly with your chance to qualify for a new grill, a gift card from Leon's, and a gift card to Campbell's Nursery and Garden Center. That is just around the corner here with Hail Varsity Radio, the ESPN Memorial Day kickoff. Billy D, this has been fun, man. Thanks for checking out the patio, bringing Shaggy, the pup, with you, and it's been fun talking ball with you all day.
Yeah, great setup here. I'm really impressed that you got this thing all figured out.
The wife is wonderful. She is a nurse.
This is the way you need to do it. I do need to say this. My new best friend, Tom Hardesty from Wellman Plumbing and Heating, over in your mom's neighborhood, said that we need to get you back up to speed on Big Ten wrestling.
See, we have Coach Manning on from time to time, and he's phenomenal. My brother-in-law, Uncle Andy's a state champion in wrestling. So those are my two go-to wrestling guys. I offer to wrestle a lot with my wife, and I get turned down quite a bit.
Understandably. So I told him I would mention to you that we need to get up to speed on wrestling, but it also got me thinking that we really, now that you got this set up, need to get Mike Babcock, Carl Vogel.
Yes, the keg.
Bring in Mike Riley. I'm happy to come back, and we will just have let's go bonus time, so not just a 2 hour, but like a 3 or 4 hour.
Do a 3 hour, 4 hour average show reunion.
Right, average show reunion, and all we'll talk about is Georgia Championship Wrestling, AWA, the old NWA, Ivan Putski, Abdullah the Butcher, Pat Patterson, the Crusher, all of the
Bruiser.
Bruiser Brody, Sergeant Slaughter, and we'll just talk pro wrestling old school for 4 hours. And
but Babbers will show up with a steel chair and may use it on me.
I guarantee you the phone will be ringing off the hook, and we'll have Babbers tell the story about the time that he was at Pershing Auditorium for a card, and Junkyard Dog was in the beer line not knowing if he was going to wrestle that night or not.
I got to talk to Babbers about that. That's so good. No, we'll do that. We'll get the kid over here. You were the king of all patio shows for an Average Joe giveaway many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Where Chef Nodder came over, made grilled grub. Yeah. And that's the inspiration for doing this, quite honestly. Elijah Herbal is with us. And Elijah, have a great weekend of baseball. Let's get caller 9 right now. Memorial Day kickoff, 466 3776 466 3776. Caller 9 right now qualifies the Weber Spirit E210 gas grill from Capitol Patio and the Flame Shop. The $100 gift card to Campbell's Nursery and Garden Centers, a $100 gift card to Leon's Gourmet Grocer. Caller 9 right now qualifies, 466 3776 or 800 825 5865. Tomorrow, come see us, Rail Yard, 10 to noon, weekend Hail Varsity. See ya.